Hello everyone and welcome! In this video I shall be sharing my thoughts on the latest episode of Fear the Walking Dead, Just In Case. And no, I'm not just saying just in case, that's the title of the episode. Anyway, as always with these videos, there will be full spoilers throughout this review, so consider this your warning. And without further ado, let's begin. Just In Case is a bit of a weird episode in what has been a very jumpy motion sickness inducing first half of the season. I can't really say I think an awful lot of this installment. Granted, there were some moments that I liked, and it was nice to find out some more about Madison and her group back at the stadium, but at the same time it contains a lot of stupid storytelling and narrative choices that wouldn't seem out of place on the bog standard The Walking Dead. Like the rest of the season so far, this installment came off feeling very disjointed and all over the place. Things did start off well enough, however, with a fantastic opening that once again centred on John Dory, which in my mind rivaled the great beginning from last week's installment. In said opening, John finds himself trying to get answers from a vulture, with the entire sequence going on to play out like something from an old western movie. I just love how confident John is in his abilities with a gun. You get a sense that he is really in control of the entire situation, and he even goes on to taunt the guy. And well, it turns out John isn't just all mouth, as he keeps his promise by blowing off his finger with incredible precision. It was simply a badass intro. What wasn't badass though was when Morgan felt the need to step in when John was losing his cool, to warn the Vulture that Alicia and the gang were headed to their meetup. Morgan obviously did it in an attempt to prevent any further bloodshed, but I just can't help but feel annoyed by his naivety on display during this moment. Did he really expect Mel to suddenly not show up to the meeting because of this? I mean, I would hazard a guess that 95% of groups in the Walking Dead universe, after being informed that some punks were trying to jump their meeting, would have still shown up anyway. Because A, they'd be pissed that someone or some group could have the audacity to attempt such a feat, therefore they would arrive at the meeting in order to kill them, and B, not showing to a meeting after you've received a warning is a sign of weakness as it makes you appear frightened. So I'm honestly perplexed as to why Morgan thought this was actually going to work. And if I'm still not convincing you, just imagine replacing the Vultures with another group and see how you feel then. For argument's sake, let's imagine Morgan in The Walking Dead warning one of the Saviours stationed at an outpost about an imminent attack from Rick later that very same day. This scenario would be ridiculous, so why Morgan did you have to mess everything up for Alicia, Strand and Luciana? Honestly, I like Morgan, I really do, but he does have a history of awful decision making, and this was another one to add to that long list of dumb choices. Speaking of awful decisions, why are we back to these stupid before and now title screens? We are currently 6 episodes into a season. I'm sorry, but if you don't know what scenes are set in the past and what scenes are set in the present by now, I'm afraid it's a bit too late. It's even weirder that these screens have been absent during the previous couple episodes which have featured flashbacks, however they did appear during episode 2. I mean, if you're going to use them, make a choice. Either use them consistently in each episode which does have flashbacks, or just don't use them at all. Anyway, it transpires that the main focus of this installment features Strand, Madison and Naomi going back to Naomi's previous camp in order to scavenge some supplies. I've said many a time during my videos on Fear already this season that I don't care for Naomi, and once again the show is doing nothing to convince me otherwise. I mean, for Christ's sake, how many times can this woman try to run away? She tried to run away again at the start of the episode. She then ran in the middle of the night when staying with Strand and Madison. She's tried to bail on Alicia previously, she attempted to steal John's car from under his nose, and as revealed at the end of the episode with her being with the Vultures, she obviously abandoned Madison's group again at some point in order to side with them. People need to stop chasing her. Strand is right, she is a coward. I just don't care anymore, enough is enough. If she wants to go, just let her go. I know Madison is pushing this bullshit ideology that everyone can be saved and not to give up on anyone blah blah blah, but this is just too much. How am I supposed to like a character who has attempted more escape attempts than Houdini? It wouldn't be as much of an issue if she wasn't so bland, but I just can't see why anyone keeps going out of their way for her. I pray that when she does try to flee next time, the characters don't give chase. As you can guess with me not caring for Naomi, it was hard to care about her escapades at our old camp. Granted, I did think that shimmying across a hang wire over the undead was a pretty decent moment, but truth be told I would have been happier if Strand and Madison had just left her to die. Anyway, the group's mission for supplies turns out to be a roaring success, with them bringing a truckload back with them. After seeing the amount of goods the group has found, Mel decides that the Vultures can't outweight them as they don't have enough supplies themselves, and so he just packs up and leaves. No really, that's what he does, he just goes away. Wow, that was easy. Of course, we still haven't seen how the stadium fell, so I guess the Vultures are going to appear once again in the flashbacks at some point to destroy the place. However, I actually kind of liked how they just gave up and disappeared for now, at least anyway. It's certainly different from the rest of the groups we've seen on the show in the past. Back to the now, and after this, the episode reunited us with Alicia, Strand and Luciana as they all made their way to the Vultures meeting point. It might sound a bit silly, but the first thing I noticed when jumping to the present was that Strand had a bunch of grenades strapped over his shoulders. I mean, surely this isn't very clever. If a bullet goes awry and he got shot, he could blow everyone up around him. With Alicia's aiming, I certainly wouldn't put it past her shooting him in the shoulder when trying to aim at a completely different person. And what am I referring to exactly by saying this, you're asking? Well, at the climax of the episode, Alicia and co find themselves in a standoff with the Vultures. Thanks a lot, Morgan. A car then pulls up to the meeting, and out steps Naomi looking like she's just joined some really shitty punk rock band. John, excited to see the woman who loved him so much that she wouldn't even give him a real name, immediately sprints over to embrace her. Cue Alicia then to do an impression of Darth Vader from Star Wars Episode 3 as she screams no for some reason, before shooting John in the chest. This scene was pretty atrocious, and for the record I'm talking about Fear Not Star Wars, although Star Wars is pretty bad as well, but let's not get into that. I just don't understand how or why Alicia shot John when he was standing by Naomi's side. John hadn't done anything to Alicia, and I don't think she was purposely aiming for him, so the only logical argument I can conjure up for this scene was that Alicia wanted to shoot Naomi but somehow missed. That is, unless she did actually want to shoot John just to hurt Naomi, in which case she's even more heartless than her mother was during season 1 to 3. Okay, you could argue that if John was standing in front of Naomi when he got shot, the bullet would have passed through the pair of them, and with it being clear that the showrunners didn't want Naomi to get injured, this wouldn't have worked either. However, having Alicia shoot him whilst he was standing directly to the side of the person she wanted to hit is just plain bad on so many levels. Do I think John is dead though? No, well, I hope not anyway. I feel that if the writers have any sense, which at this point in time is debatable, they wouldn't kill off a character who they've spent so long trying to develop this season, so John will be back, and I can imagine seeing Naomi saving him during the next instalment. This entire segment also brings into question, why did Alicia get so angry at the sight of Naomi? She must have done something really bad to conjure up this much rage in Alicia. Many are predicting that she may have killed Madison, and even though I've never really been a fan of Maddies, I am hoping another Clark hasn't bitten the dust. However, instead of her murdering Alicia's mother, I think instead Naomi must have done something silly to compromise the stadium, something that ultimately caused the place to fall, which in turn leads Alicia to blame her for Madison's death. But I do believe that Madison is still out there somewhere. Well, that's my view on it anyway. Before I wrap things up, there's a couple of other things that I didn't really enjoy. Firstly, Morgan attempting to be the messenger of peace with him telling the two opposing sides at the end of the episode to stop fighting was really dire. Also, why didn't the Vultures just waste Alicia, Strand and Luciana? It was 3 versus 20 at this point. Finally, I wasn't really a fan of how dialogue about the dam was ham-fisted into conversation, especially the example when Strand said something about Madison saving everyone and then taking them back to a bloody cave. What? Really? I've come to accept at this point that we probably won't get to see a proper flashback as to what happened after the dam exploded. It's ironic in a season full of flashbacks we aren't going to see the one that we all actually want. Like I said at the start of this review, I found this installment to be a very messy 45 minutes of television. In fact, despite there being a lot I like about season 4 of Fear so far, the whole season feels like a bit of a mess, with the show trying to simultaneously juggle the present day storyline, but also needing to fill us in regarding what happens in the past. Sure, we've now met up with the Vultures in the present, but we still don't even know why the stadium fell, or why Alicia and Nicole have such hatred for this group. Yes, they were acting like dicks when they tried to intimidate Madison's people, but when we last saw them they buggered off. So now the show is trying to set up a confrontation between these two groups, but we don't really know why they are coming to blows in the first place. Maybe on next week's episode, Alicia is going to go into a trance whilst being held at gunpoint by Mel, causing her to reminisce about the fall of the stadium. Then when we come back to her in the present, we will find she's actually been shot and killed after standing around too long daydreaming. Hey, look, at this point I wouldn't put anything past them. Strangely, after this latest episode of Fear came to an end, initially I didn't think it was too bad. But after thinking about it all day, more and more problems began to surface to the point where I now can't stand it. So maybe you'll enjoy this episode more than I did if you switch off your brains and don't question anything. However, after doing that for a lot of the episodes on The Walking Dead during the last few seasons, I was hoping I wouldn't have to do the same for Fear. However, sadly it seems like Fear is becoming more and more like its sister show with each passing installment. So there you have it as my views on the latest episode of Fear the Walking Dead. Please let me know your thoughts below. Do you agree with this or do you disagree? And as always, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.